Hey everybody, welcome back to my kitchen. I think you have seen the inside of my kitchen before, but maybe not for quite a while, and maybe not from this angle. So anyway, welcome back. Hope you all had a lovely Christmas and New Year festive period. I certainly did. I put a call out on Instagram and on my community tab right here for some questions. Obviously I put that update video out last year that kind of explained roughly where I'm at with my situation right now, but people I think had follow-ups and maybe just wanted to know various other random things about me. So hey, on the menu today is a chicken pie. I had some chicken, some veggies, and some pastry in the freezer, so that's what we're making. Disclaimer before we start, I'm not a professional chef. I'm what I would call like a good, solid home cook, but maybe don't take the kind of cooking advice from me directly. There are many people on YouTube who do that better. I'm mostly just using it as a vehicle to answer your questions. I've got some chicken thighs that I wanted to skin and debone. In my opinion, by far the best part of a chicken. While I'm doing this, we have a question from Nessa Majwick, I think. Apologies if it's actually Nez Sam Ajwick, but Nessa Majwick makes sense. Nessa asks, what was your favorite thing that you ever ate on food tours? That's a good question. Got to eat a lot of really nice, cool places, especially compared to Food Wars, where most of what I was doing was just eating kind of like cold burgers. I think if I had to pick like one favorite from food tours, it might actually be the kind of sushi omakase that we had at Sushi Note in LA. That one for me was just such a cool experience. The sushi episode in general I found really fun just because compared to some of the foods that we would normally eat, sushi was relatively light. I didn't feel too kind of unhealthy, bloated and gross by the end of that one compared to some of the other shoots, because we did do them all in one day. We'd hit like 3 or 4 spots in the same day, which obviously by the end can start to take its toll, especially when you have as little self-restraint around food as I do. So yeah, I think maybe the omakase at Sushi Note was really cool. I'd never been to an omakase before. That's where they kind of like just bring you the food out at a sushi restaurant. You don't really pick what you want. The chef just kind of decides. So that was fun because I'm also indecisive and I hate picking things. Yeah, so that was really cool. I think in terms of the experience, like getting to experience a sushi omakase was something that had been on my foodie bucket list for a while, doing it with a good friend Joe, of course, and yeah, not feeling too disgusting at the end of a food tour shoot. So probably that one is my number one pick. I've got this big like non-stick Dutch oven thing, which is probably my favorite piece of cooking equipment that I own. And what I'm gonna do actually is put the chicken skins in there, dry pan, spread them out a bit so that I can kind of like crisp them up and also render out some of that delicious cooking fat. Next up, I'm going to debone these chicken thighs while I answer only a cat's question which came in on Instagram, which is hot honey over, under, or appropriately rated? Hot honey is another one of those condiments that has become like pretty ubiquitous in the UK. Whenever anything becomes that widespread, you do have to question like, is it actually good or are we just kind of getting used to it? I think hot honey is probably like appropriately rated, I think I would say, because I do really like it. Like it is a good condiment. Sweet and heat is such a good flavor combo. But yeah, I don't know. It's like we're probably currently appropriately rated, but if we take it much further, I think we're going to start straying into overrated territory. This is what I mean by I'm not a professional chef, because my technique does leave a little to be desired sometimes. I love cooking though, cooking's great. Probably like the thing that I do just to relax. I find it quite meditative. I'm a busy-brained person, lots going on upstairs, so it's nice to just do something where you kind of are focused on a task, you know. Our next question comes in from Rabibi, which is, will you be visiting any new UK cities for a food tour? Now, without giving too much away, this is one of my biggest, if not my biggest goals for this year. Basically, during food tours, we only had Joe in the UK for like limited windows of time. Also, generally speaking, in terms of like playing the SEO game on YouTube and kind of serving as many people as possible with our videos, London was kind of, I think, what most people wanted to see, at least from the international perspective. However, it did always make me really sad that we never got to take Joe around the UK, show him some of the more kind of regional specialities that he's missed out on. And I am very excited to visit them, to discover a bit more about the kind of history, the culture, to meet people from these places. So yeah, big watch this space on that one. Definitely coming this year, pretty soon, hopefully. We have chicken thighs. Houston, we have chicken thighs. So the chicken skins are starting to release their oil in the pan, crisp up a little bit. I'm just gonna roughly dice these chicken thighs now into more manageable bite-sized pieces. While I dice the chicken thighs, we have Ella MCG asking, favorite TV show / movie? I don't know if you mean TV show or movie, so I'm just gonna give you both. In terms of movie, I do come and go on it a little bit sometimes, but generally speaking, I will lean towards like comedies, I would say. I am someone who doesn't like kind of overly sad, traumatizing, scary stuff. I think we get enough of that daily as it is in this crazy world we live in. So I think my top two, or I mean my top one is probably Hot Rod, the kind of like Lonely Island comedy from I think like 2007, that kind of era. My style of humor, that slightly insane, very kooky approach to jokes. Some of the ways that they kind of like just drag out a joke and you kind of like start to lose interest and then it gets funny again, and then that cycle happens about 3 times and they're still making the same joke. I just love it, and the Lonely Island guys seem really cool. So yeah, probably Hot Rod is my #1 movie. In terms of TV show, #1 TV show is a tricky one. I'd probably have to say New Girl. I think again it's that kind of like slightly oddball style of humor in a similar vein to Hot Rod. The first 3 seasons of New Girl in particular, I think, in my opinion, just some of the best like comedy on TV. It's that like feel good, hilarious, slightly oddball comedy. Yeah, just love it a lot. It's in the dishwasher. Haha. The last place anyone would expect to look. Right, so I have my deboned and sliced up chicken, which I'm gonna add to a bowl. The bones I will save because I'm a stock man. Gotta be done. It always feels like slightly redundant sometimes when chefs are like, well, make sure you save your bones for stock, because not everyone's doing it, but if you're not, you should be, because it makes some very good soups and stuff with not too much effort. Does anyone else have Colette's voice in their head from Ratatouille whenever they cook? About keep your station clean, because I certainly do, although I don't always live by it. So into my chicken, I'm going to add a splash of oil, a sprinkle of flour, and of course, season with salt and pepper. Just going to toss that around a little bit to coat in the flour. You want to build up a kind of like slightly floury coating so that it eventually turns into a bit of a slurry and thickens itself while it cooks. Looking good. So these chicken skins are releasing quite a lot of fat. I put this into a dry pan, and the bottom of this pan is now almost covered in delicious schmaltz. While those sizzle away, next question comes from Tom Lapworth, who asks, did you finish Echoes of the Eye? Echoes of the Eye, I'm going to try and describe without giving too many spoilers away, because Outer Wilds, half the experience is getting to play it for the first time blind. So I did enjoy it, I did finish it in the end. I did have to use a guide at one point, just because I got a bit stuck. Also, it's a bit scarier than the base game, which I think thematically is kind of important, but at the same time, I'm a bit of a wimp. I don't like horror. And so for me, there were elements of the DLC that I thought were just kind of like not fun for me to play, basically. There's a reduced frights mode, which I did turn on. And then also I had to Google like how to get to one of the like hidden areas in this map. In hindsight, I do love it, and I think the horror, I guess, is important to the kind of messaging that they were trying to convey with the DLC. But yeah, so I did finish it, but I did need a guide. Overall, in hindsight, loved it. Do think maybe they could have made a couple of changes to some of the kind of like stealth mechanics that would have made it slightly easier to play, just from a sort of like fairly amateur, casual gamer who doesn't like horror's perspective. But yeah, overall, still finished it. If you haven't played Outer Wilds already, please go play it. It's fantastic, and don't look up any guides, just go in blind. It's really good. Right, what we got next? It's leek time. Time to take a leek. So I'm going to go for like a chicken mushroom leek pie type of thing. One thing important to note about leeks, they grow them in quite sandy earth. So what you really want to do is trim them. Like, look at that. You see all the dirt and sand that gets stuck in there? So the way I do it is just cut them straight down the middle, leaving the stems intact so they kind of hold together. And then you just run these under the tap and make sure that the water gets into all these little crevices and washes away any sand, because that isn't going to break down while you cook. I'm going to just roughly slice these leeks into kind of half moons while I answer the next question, which comes in from Homebrand Emo, who asks, if you only had one day in London, where would you have to eat? So the way that I am going to interpret this is like, I guess, breakfast, lunch and dinner, kind of where am I going in London given only one day to do it? And I think I'm probably going to start the day with a full English, of course. Some of the best ones that we've had on food tours, I Pellicci, of course, fantastic. Like the history there, the vibe in there. It's just so London, it's so East End. Nev and I think it was Anna, his sister. The family that run it are just such characters. They really are lovely and so welcoming. The vibe is chaotic and you might have to wait for a table, but it's phenomenal. Also, Terry's in the kind of Southwark area is really fantastic. Again, quite that kind of like old school London, slightly Cockney vibe in there, and the food's really good. So I'm probably starting with a full English from one of those places. baby. These are crispin. Crispy chicken skins, one of the nicest foods in the game. Moving on to lunch, it's a tricky one. It gets much harder at that point. Lunch is probably the course where I'm like, don't quite know exactly what to recommend. It does become slightly personal preference. I honestly would slightly avoid fish and chips in London, just because the best fish and chips in the UK aren't going to be found in London. Typically, they're going to be found in seaside towns and villages where you're getting that fresh stuff, and also probably up north as well. Just generally seems to do better fish and chips than the south. So instead, I actually might just recommend like one of the burger places in London, just because you kind of want a quick and easy lunch and you're doing your sightseeing. It's a convenient meal. We do some really fantastic burgers here in London. I think UK beef is substantially clear of American beef. So I think if you're kind of visiting as a tourist as well, you want to experience that. Again, my two favorites from shows, but also just in general, would be, I think, Burger and Beyond and Bleecker. They're just two really fantastic burgers. And then for dinner, it's another one that I was lucky enough to go to on food tours, but Fallow's probably one of my favorite restaurants in London. If you're not subscribed to them on YouTube, they actually have a channel where they post a lot of like behind the scenes stuff from the restaurant, and also a lot of cooking instructional videos, which are fantastic. The guys are really nice. And in terms of just like modern British cuisine, they are, I'd say, some of the best in the game. Those recommendations also kind of keep you relatively central in London, I suppose, so you'd be able to do most of them as well as most of your sightseeing. So that's my one day in London overview guide. Look at this goodness. Crispy chicken skins. What I will actually often do is just save these, salt them, or sometimes add a bit of tahini and eat them like crisps because they are so tasty. They've also given up a lot of juice, so now I'm going to use that to spread that out in the pan, let it cook nice and evenly while I do the rest of my veggies. I'm gonna bang up a few mushrooms while I answer the next question. Mushrooms are a really good thing to like practice your knife skills on, because they offer so little resistance. You can kind of focus a bit more on your speed and technique, which is one of the ways how I learned how to do this. Bang. So the next one we have Burn Right, asking, where did you go to university and what is your degree? Two-parter there. I went to the University of Southampton. It wasn't my first choice, I can't lie. I had an offer from Durham to go and study, and then I played too much FIFA and Call of Duty while I was supposed to be revising for my A-levels. So I slightly missed my offer and then ended up at Southampton, which I actually really enjoyed in the end. It's not the sort of prettiest, almost cultural city, maybe, unless you're super into Titanic history, but it's got a really nice vibe. I met some really great people there. Everyone's very down to earth, very chill, and it has really good nightlife, so I had a great time. So I studied law at uni, and then honestly, like maybe 6 months to a year into the degree, realised that I'd made a mistake. I didn't enjoy the degree, it was a bit too dry, and I just kind of slightly gave up on it. I still finished uni. I was tempted to drop out, but I thought, you know, I'm basically already a year in, just get through it, figure out your life after that, which is what I did. So yeah, I have a law degree, and then I'm gonna add just a little bit of carrot as well. A little sweetness in there, never hurt anybody. I saw someone doing the forbidden peeling method on TikTok ages ago. Obviously the normal method with a wide peeler is just down, down, but you can actually go down, up, down, up, down, up. And it does work, it does work. Next up we have a question from Jonathan Walton 9205, who asks, here's my question. You're stranded on a desert island, but you get to choose one restaurant that somehow shows up there and can prepare their menu for you until they're rescued. What restaurant do you choose, and what's the go-to dish? It's a good question. I think, I don't know if this is cheating, but Spoons could be quite funny. The Wetherspoons pub chain here in the UK, which is like a very affordable, cheap and cheerful pub chain. They have a lot of booze on offer, as you'd imagine from a pub chain, but they also have an extremely extensive food menu. I guess I could do that because I'd have like a lot of options to choose from. They do breakfast, they have lunch options, they have dinner options. Might be cheating, but I might have to go for Spoons. I think that one would be the wise choice from like a tactical perspective. If there was one dish that I had to focus on from Spoons, I do think they just do quite a good breakfast. Next up I need a little bowl for the chicken to hang out in. Also going to take this opportunity to tidy up because I'm making a mess. Chicken's browning away nicely. I've cut them into quite small bits, so it doesn't actually need to cook for too long. It's going to finish cooking in the sauce and in the pie later anyway, so this is more just to get a little bit of colour and caramelisation on the outside. The benefit of doing this in one pan as well is that you're kind of retaining all the flavour from all those different stages. Got a little bit of like crispy chicken fond on the bottom of this pan now. I was considering putting onion in this as well, but I actually don't think I have any onions, and also leeks are that like allium family anyway. A professional, you might cook these in different stages as well, but I've got questions to answer, so I'm just banging all my veg in one go. Another very generous shake of salt. That's a very appropriate question given this guy's profile picture. But King Darby asks, what is your favorite Mario character? I am a Mario fan, played pretty much all the games. Mario Odyssey is one of my favorite games. It's like a sort of top 5 game. Absolutely love that. Favorite Mario character is tricky. I'd say we're looking at either Yoshi or Drybones. For some reason I used to race as Drybones a lot on like Mario Kart DS. Mario Kart games, I generally prefer the like lighter characters, so I can do these little fast acceleration and tight turns and stuff like that. So yeah, one of those two. Although it's always really heartbreaking in the old Mario games when you would have to just like sacrifice him, like jump off him to clear a large gap and just watch him fall into the abyss. That was kind of traumatic. But yeah, probably Yoshi or Drybones. Is it bad that part of the reason why I learned how to cook and chop things quickly was to impress girls? Is that bad, or is that relatively common? I mean, it kind of works, so. Just gonna do a rough mince on this garlic. I saw someone say that when we chop garlic and then our hands end up smelling of garlic, it reminds us that we are fundamentally pieces of meat that are susceptible to being seasoned. And that's a fun mental image, isn't it? These are already starting to soften and give up some of their moisture. I cut them nice and small. Because who doesn't like butter? Just one of the tastiest substances known to man. It's kind of fitting that I'm being asked this while doing a cooking video, but Heather Martin 8932 asks, have you ever thought about going on a cookery course to understand techniques a bit better? Yes, yeah, I definitely have. Like I say, I'm like I would say a solid home cook, but very much not a professional. I've worked in cafes before, but like local cafes, serving, you know, toasted sandwiches to old ladies, so there wasn't a ton of technique involved there. But yeah, I'd love to. I think they can be kind of expensive, which can be a bit of a barrier to entry, especially for someone who like me is probably not going to be doing that as like a full-time career anytime soon. But yeah, I think, you know, if I had the opportunity, I would love to learn from people. Maybe that could be a series on this show, you know, me actually trying to become a better cook. But, you know, I'm happy with where I'm at right now in terms of my culinary ability. I've got 2 questions here that I'm going to group together because I thought they were kind of similar. We have Josh Oken and also Detroyer2777, who are generally asking kind of like what the plans are for this year and for this channel. Is the intention to be solely food related, or might you stray into cooking, travel, other, and just kind of, you know, big plans for the channel? I don't think my intention is for it to be solely food related. I think food is always going to be kind of like a focus and probably the main focus of my channel, just because that's what I've been doing for quite a few years now, and that's what I think people expect of me to some extent. But I definitely don't want that to be the only thing that I do. I mean, like, I want to obviously keep reviewing food, but also, you know, could do a bit more cooking if this is the type of thing that people are into. Would love to do a bit of travel as well. Like I say, already planning on probably getting out of London and seeing more of the UK. Would love to also get, you know, into Europe and cover things like that, but that is probably going to be a little bit more budget dependent. Right now I'm working on a fairly shoestring budget, so keeping things light and fast for the meantime. And yeah, in terms of big plans, basically just regular uploads. If I can get to a point where I'm uploading once a week, that would be great. I've got a lot of plans for videos. I just need to film a lot of stuff basically and then start getting them out. So yeah, probably regular uploads, mostly still going to be food or food related. And yeah, do a bit more traveling, cover some subject matter that I haven't covered before. The veggie mix is looking and smelling great, which is good. There's a restaurant in London called Speedboat Bar that does Thai food, and they have a starter that's just like crispy chicken skins with this spicy, tangy seasoning on them. One of my like favorite mouthfuls in London, so I'm always trying to chase that high whenever I cook chicken thighs at home. Off of this veggie mix, then I'm going to add a little more flour, the chicken back in, and some stock to help form a kind of sauce. So while I wait for that, Matt Card 1714 asks, how did you get into food journalism and what are your goals for your channel in 2026? I kind of just covered the goals for the channel in terms of branching out the subject matter a bit and regular uploads. In terms of how I got into food journalism, I guess it kind of goes back to the uni question from earlier. Thought I wanted to be a lawyer, turned out that was a mistake and wasn't for me. So while I was at uni, I was looking for other things that I could do that I would enjoy a bit more and would kind of like, I guess, creatively fulfill me a little more than I was getting from the degree. One thing I found for that was student journalism. I wrote for the Sutton Tab, which was one of the student papers at the Uni of Southampton. I had a really great time doing that. I made some really great friends doing that, and just kind of like was able to write about random nonsense and have a good time. And then after uni, I worked in hospitality for a year just to kind of like try and make money and move to London. And then after I did that, I was able to get an internship at Business Insider. I think probably because I had that student journalism experience, doing social media. Did that for a few years, and then was kind of working hand in hand and closely enough with the video team that I got an understanding of how they operated, you know, what worked and what didn't work on social media, and then was able to eventually pitch to a full-time move to the video team, which I did, and then shortly after that we found Food Wars, and the rest is history. So yeah, kind of had to worm my way into journalism and then social media and then kind of work my way up from there. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna bang in some flour. You're basically building a roux like kind of halfway through the cooking, which is gonna then thicken the sauce and form that pie interior so it's not just completely runny. I'm gonna add about 500 mils of water. Should probably have boiled the kettle and made stock beforehand, but instead I'm just gonna add the requisite amount of water plus a stock cube, and it can just kind of break down as it comes back up to a boil. Again, home cooking. At this point, the chicken can go back in as well. Now, as this comes back up to a boil, it should thicken a bit as well. Then we're almost ready to assemble. Living in London and renting in London means that unfortunately I have a very small kitchen, and unless you keep it clean as you go, it gets out of hand very quickly. I do love where I live, but it'd be nice to have a bigger kitchen. Not really left myself a ton of room on the counter for this, but we're gonna try and roll pastry. Pre-made pastry, because why would you make your own pastry? Generous sprinkle of flour. While I try and roll out this not quite defrosted pastry, Merchva. Hi Merchva, how you doing? Merchva asks, if you had the opportunity to return one discontinued item from a fast food chain, which one would it be? I thought it was a tricky one, and then I remembered the chicken legend from McDonald's. That was literally like my go-to order at Mackey's, that kind of like long chicken burger that they used to do. You could get it with either regular mayo, a spicy mayo, or a barbecue sauce, I think it was. Spicy mayo was my option of choice, and it was really great. They got rid of it a couple of years ago now, time flies. But they kind of replaced it with the McCrispy, which is a perfectly fine chicken burger. It's okay, but for me, it doesn't hold a candle to the chicken legend. And I'm hoping that one day it gets brought back. McDonald's in the UK have been running a lot of like promotions and stuff recently. They've been a bit more experimental with their menu, which I like. But yeah, bring back the chicken legend. I miss it. It's great. Don't think I have enough pastry to do a top and a bottom layer, so instead I'm just going to do like a pot pie, I suppose, like a top layer only of pastry, and a little baking sheet here. Just want this to thicken a little more because it's still currently quite runny, and I don't know if I back it to solidify when it cooks. I may even cheat slightly. A little cornstarch slurry. What you can do is get like a little warm water in a bowl, add a little cornstarch into said bowl and water, and kind of mix that around until it forms like a sort of pasty, slightly gloopy consistency. Then you just drop this into a sauce or anything that you're trying to thicken, and it thickens it. Cornstarch seems to be a lot more common in like Asian cooking, and generally speaking in the UK we don't use it loads. This is one of those things that they use if you ever have like chicken soup from a Chinese restaurant. Cornstarch is that secret weapon that gives it that like gelatinous texture to it, which I personally find very satisfying and delicious. While that thickens up a little bit more, I will answer this question, which came in from the Jogra Hog and was backed up by Ashley Jenkins, which is, what is the single worst thing you ever ate on Food Wars? Now this might be cheating because it was technically a fast food chemistry episode rather than a Food Wars episode. It was the episode where we recreated McDonald's fries from scratch using every ingredient. These days McDonald's fries are cooked with this like beef flavoring in them, and I tried a bit of the beef flavoring in its concentrated raw form.
God, Harry, take it easy, man. Oh God. That's so bad. What is in that? That's horrible. And that was single-handedly the worst thing that's ever been in my mouth. I had like the tiniest drop and it immediately just coated my entire palate, my whole mouth. It was just like you'd bitten into the most concentrated but also very artificial beef stock cube, I guess. I don't know, it was just like repulsive. Didn't throw up. I don't think I ever actually threw up on a food shoot, which I'm claiming is an achievement. But yeah, that was honestly so vile. Just something about the way that it coated my whole mouth and was really hard to get off. I was like chugging water and it wasn't really going anywhere. It was so unpleasant. So yeah, the concentrated beef extract was the worst thing I ever ate. Big John, if you're watching this, let's collab. I need to pick your brains. Now this should be about the right size, but we'll find out. Well, I carefully attempt to add the pastry topping to my pie. I think I'm going to leave it there for this video. While this is about to go in the oven, I will post results either on the community tab or on my Instagram, or both, of this pie, so you can see how it turned out. but I don't have enough questions to last another sort of half an hour while it sits in the oven, and also been yapping at you for quite a while already, so I think that's plenty. But thank you so much for all the questions that you guys sent in. There were some bangers today. If you like this type of thing, then I can do A, more Q&A stuff, B, more cooking stuff, I suppose. Again, I'm not saying I'm the world's best cook, I'm definitely not, but I think I'm a capable cook, and I think I can kind of explain things in a home cook friendly manner. So if you want to see more, then please do let me know, because if you're still here, then thank you very much for watching. If your question didn't get answered in this one, then I'll do another one at some point very soon, and hopefully you'll make it into that one. But yeah, appreciate the support. This is going in the oven, and I'm gonna go sit down. See you later.